customer care and service, the tolerance for the bizarre things that come in, you know, which is truly, you know, mind-opening to anyone, whether it's, you know, some really sad story or some bizarre type thing that you would never thought of in your whole life. People used to come in and, you know, have like, oh, if this part, I need a part for this to make this do this. It's like, there's no way on God's green earth that would happen. But we'd make a joke saying that, you know, they'd come in with 35 cents and a dream to Cliff's, you know. I came to work at Cliff's Hardware because I was pursuing a locksmith career, and I ended up going to Cliff's and working in the locksmithing department and doing that.
Well, my first job in San Francisco was working here on Castro Street at a business that doesn't exist anymore called the Gilded Age, which was across the street. And when the owner, Ian, decided he was going to retire and didn't want to do that anymore, I lived on my unemployment for a month and then came across the street and said, "Hey, Martha, you got a job for me?" And she said, "Well, actually no, but I'll take your application." And then 3 days later she called me.
Well, it was just a couple blocks away and needed money, needed a job, and I just decided to come up to Castro Street and go in and out of every single store I saw till someone hired me. And I kept coming back to Cliff's over and over and over because I just liked the energy here. I liked Martha. She interviewed me, and I'd had some retail experience, and she thought she could stick me in where there used to be a camera area up there to the right of the front door where I had some camera experience.
I lived in the neighborhood, and my roommates also worked at Cliff's at the time back in the 70s. And so I became part of the Cliff's family.
You know, I was about 30. I think that just turning 30 sent me through a loop. And I had a little girl to raise. She was about 5 years old at the time, and came here to find a job. Knew Martha just from being a customer here.
I know a lot of people in the neighborhood. I've been a customer here for years, been in the contracting business, painting business, so I've come here to shop.
Well, the store was started by my great-great-grandfather, and my parents are the current owners, and so I had gone away to college and married a Marine, and graduated from college, left the Marine, and ran back home.
Hilario de Baca, a former merchant and school teacher from New Mexico, came out of retirement to open the business at 545 Castro Street. The shop was mostly a one-man operation, with Hilario's granddaughter, Lorraine, helping out after school. Hilario named the store after his youngest son, Clifford. The store sold a variety of goods including magazines, cigars, sewing notions, greeting cards, toys, and candy. It would be his oldest son, Ernie, not the store's namesake, Cliff, who would join the business with his father. Ernie was born in 1903. From his earliest days, Ernie was an entrepreneur. At the age of 14, he operated a horse-drawn popcorn wagon at baseball games in Arizona. At the age of 15, he entered an apprenticeship on the Santa Fe Railroad to be a boilermaker. In 1921, he married Alice, and later they moved to San Francisco, where he bellhopped at the Wiltshire Hotel, now the Sir Francis Drake Hotel near Union Square. At this time, he also formed a dance band called the Spanish Dons with his brother Cliff on tenor saxophone. Ernie played banjo in the five-piece band.
There's just something about the customers that come in here and the atmosphere here that is really friendly.
I'm here about once a week, easily.
Can't find it any place you go to Cliff's.
I'm Lizzie Dearkin, and I shop at Cliff's all the time.
I wanted to get a screwdriver for work that had a unique handle so that no one else would take my screwdriver, and Cliff's had it. Flames when I wanted to find, feathers. I've come. I wanted to buy Christmas cracker popper things a few years ago. Cliff's had it. Anytime I want anything for filling piñatas for birthday parties, costumes, home improvement.
They would put in items too. They bring in sewing goods and little bits of housewares and toys. It all kind of grew around their interest, what interested them. So it's kind of this organic, natural progression of the store growing. Somewhere in the 40s, Ernie DeBacca, Ilario's son, was in a motorcycle accident, and he had been a handyman. He had a little repair business called Ernie's Repair Shop, and he would drive around on his motorcycle and go to people's homes and fix their appliances. And so when he was laid up and he couldn't get around on his motorcycle, he sat in the back of the store and people would bring appliances in for him to repair back there. So he needed bits of hardware, electrical things to repair these things. So little by little, electrical and hardware stuff comes into the store. I'm not quite sure, how the moves in the business happened, but somewhere in the 40s they moved from 545 Castro to 515 Castro, which now is the space where the Sunglasses Hut is, next to the sausage factory. In that space, they called it, I guess that was called Cliff's Trading Post in those years, from the 40s to the 50s. And again, very small space, and Grandpa Ernie would do the best he could with the space that he had to maximize the space use. And he created these machines to transport the goods. The last existing machine we have is the ribbon machine in our annex at 471. He created these baskets, and he would have a motor, and he'd hook it up with bicycle chain, and it would travel around these baskets. And Ernie remembers a candy machine. That probably was his favorite as a kid. And the ribbon machine was one. And then there was a button machine that Ernie remembers as a child. His grandfather had him go into the attic and drop bolts down through the attic that he mounted the button machine on, and it would be on a track and would travel across the store and would come back and then would come down, and it was on a switch. So when you saw the button you wanted, you'd switch off the machine, and you would take the card off these pegs. The last existing machine is the ribbon machine at 471. Ernie has actually completely rebuilt that one, because after 50 years, it crapped out completely, motors had burnt out. He may have used the same bicycle chain, because that seemed to have held up pretty well. Anybody who's been around remembers these machines, and they love them.
On Halloween in 1946, Ernie produced the first Halloween street party on Castro Street. It started very small as a children's costume contest. The first year, a stool served as a stage. Each child would stand on the stool and the crowd would applaud. The child with the loudest applause won. The tradition grew over the years with a flatbed truck serving as a stage with lights and a PA system. In addition to the costume contest, there were musicians, clowns, jugglers, and other types of entertainment. And there was an ice cream eating contest and a parade. This tradition of a children's Halloween party continued through the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. It came to a sad end in 1979 when, instead of hosting hundreds of local children, Castro Street had crowds of tens of thousands of rowdy adults fighting and breaking windows. Ernie DeBacca realized that his Halloween tradition had ended. The business grew at this location, until the property owner, the Hibernia Bank, decided to demolish the building to provide the bank with a drive-through teller window. Ernie was fond of joking, "They tore the building down, so we decided to move." Drive-through banking was a short-lived phenomenon. In 1947, Ernie and Alice DeBaca's daughter Lorraine had a son and named him Ernie. On little Ernie's 5th birthday, Hilario DeBaca died of a heart attack on July 19th, 1952.
You don't even know what you're looking for, and they've got it. And if you do know what you're looking for, they've got it too.
A gallon of glitter.
And that's all from Cliff?
Yes.
I have my wig is from Cliff's. I had to bring it down a bit because it was huge.
Alice DeBaca, Ernie's wife, worked at the store and took care of their grandson, Ernie Aston. In 1963, she suffered a stroke. It took more than a year for her to recover to the point where she could visit the store in her wheelchair and later with her walker. Ernie and Alice's daughter Lorraine returned to help run the store in Alice's absence. However, Lorraine's husband was in the Navy, stationed on the East Coast, and she needed to be with him. Ernie Aston was by this time old enough to help out at the store after school. He would mind the store while his grandfather went home for dinner, but more help was necessary, and a few other employees were hired. One of these was Lena Sozi, who worked from Cliff's from 1964 until her death in May of 1989. Martha Sullivan, Ernie Aston's girlfriend, started helping out at Halloween and Christmas. In the summer of 1968, Martha started full-time. Ernie and Martha married in 1969, and they have been at Cliff's ever since. In early 1971, the landlord of 495 Castro Street told Ernie DeBaca that his rent would triple when his lease expired later that year. Fortune smiled on Ernie and Cliff's when the Bon Ami store, a 5 and dime, went out of business. The day it closed, Ernie made an offer on the building and purchased 479 Castro Street in August of 1971. In September of 1971, Alice DeBaca passed away. She had been working along with Ernie, her husband of 49 years, to get the store moved, but she never got to see it open in the new location.
We give a lot of ownership to our employees where we allow them to make choices about what's brought into the business, and we have the ability to change things very quickly if they're not working. And so I think that's part of what makes it special. Plus, we feel responsible for keeping the whole neighborhood going, not just ourselves. So we feel a real civic responsibility to the neighborhood we're in.
Variety of everything that they have basically just about anything that you want that other hardware stores would not.
But what I used to just do is go in and just shop around because they have so many interesting little items there that you would never see anywhere else.
The neighborhood was beginning to see a little bit of climb in rents around here. The rents started going up, in the homes about that time. That was kind of the beginning of the gay movement in Castro. We came into the store, and the window you see here wasn't here. It was a wall, because now, as most people know, this was the original Castro Theater, so this was the projection booth. So you're looking out at what the back of the store was, where the screen would have been.
The building was erected in 1910 as the location of the original Castro Theater. It was remodeled into a retail store in the mid-1920s after the larger Castro Theater was built. This store was much larger than the previous one, and it seemed that it would be impossible to fill the place up. Product lines were added and expanded to meet the needs of people restoring their Victorians, and lines were also added to accommodate people putting their drag costumes together. So you could get a plaster ceiling medallion, a feather boa, a toilet fill valve, a rhinestone tiara, and toys for the nieces and nephews all in one place. There were rapid changes in the neighborhood during the 70s. As the gay population exploded, the street was constantly bustling with people. In 1971, Cliffs had 3 employees who were not family. As the business grew, the number of workers increased to 36. Cliffs was the first straight-owned business on the block to hire openly gay employees. As the neighborhood changed, so did the skills required of sales clerks. In addition to a knowledge of hardware, electrical, and plumbing, people were needed who could advise with decorating, costuming, cooking, sewing, and entertaining. The 1970s not only witnessed the expansion of the business, it also saw the birth of Ernie and Martha's 2 daughters. After growing up in the city, the youngest daughter, Marion, decided to forego city life as an adult and moved north for a life in the country. The older daughter, Terry, spent her high school years working at the store in the family tradition before going away to college.
Or, somebody comes in and goes, do you have this? You don't say, I don't know. You say, if you don't know, you say, let me see if I can find out. But you don't just brush off somebody or be a stooge. You went to go find something out. And if you didn't know at least 2 or 3 or 4 things, whether it was threading pipe or cutting glass or paint, everybody knew a bunch of stuff. And what they didn't know, they usually knew how to, lead you in the right direction. And that was really cool.
I was going to say the felt that I used to make the hat, the yellow and the orange felt for the hat, and the fabric that I used to make the bow tie both came from Cliffs, as did the foam board that I used to make the brim of the hat.
It was in the late 1980s that relief would come to an overloaded Cliffs variety. The store adjacent to Cliffs, a Hallmark card shop, formerly Work Wonders, a furniture store, and before that, Square Deal Paints, became available to lease. Ernie and Martha quickly jumped at the opportunity, and it was decided the space would become the new home of Cliffs Fabric and Linens, as well as bedding and bath accessories. The store would go through many changes during the early 1990s, and it would be the dot-com boom of the late 90s that would shape the product selection that is Cliffs Annex today.
I get to do a lot of things I enjoy. In addition to the variety of merchandise we sell, we provide a number of services. And that gets me into woodworking, metal machining.
It's enjoyable to have something that you can go somewhere, a place you can work anywhere in the store and learn so much. And every day I learn something new. It's like a learning experience.
And they're so butch. It's really wonderful. But Cliffs is one of those places. It's kind of like the mom and pop of the Castro for hardware. It's an independent store, and the service is wonderful, and all the stuff they've got. It's like so anti-big box store. Thank you.
The late 90s also saw the return from college of Terry, Martha and Ernie's eldest daughter. It was during this period of growth that Terry chose to carry on the family tradition and began her rite of passage to becoming the latest generation to take over operations at Cliffs Variety. In 2003, Terry herself had a daughter who was growing up in her grandfather's footsteps and may one day be the next generation to carry on the history of one of the oldest family-owned stores in San Francisco.
2008, my husband came to work here full-time, and he's been learning things from my dad, and he's hands-on in rebuilding all the counters and learning how the shop works, and he's working side by side with my dad. And my daughter Camille is now in 2nd grade, and every time she has a day off, she comes and likes to work at the store, and she'll stand at the counter and help bag merchandise and scan merchandise, and she's gotten very good at checking signatures on credit cards.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ernie and Martha Aston, their daughter Terry, her husband Richie, all of my fellow employees, and all of the uncountable thousands of people that it has been my pleasure to work with and for over the past 25 years of my tenancy here at Cliffs.
I would just like to say, you know, congratulations and happy 75th anniversary. Y'all rock.
I would just like to say congratulations, everyone in Cliffs, to Martha, and to Ernie, and to everybody who's worked here. This is really a great store for the community and for the employees. Thank you very much.
I would just like to congratulate Ernie and Martha and the whole Cliffs family for an incredible 75 years of giving back to the community and providing something to the community that they can't find or couldn't find anywhere else. And I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be part of that early on, 30-some years ago. And I wish you all the best, at least 75 more years in the future.
I would like to congratulate my employers. They are wonderful to work with. I wouldn't have been here this long if they weren't great people. And many, many more years for all of us. Thank you.
I love Cliffs! Yeah!
by the light. The world